everyone. I hope everyone's well. I hope you are all doing well. Thank you to everyone who's replying in terms of where you are. I think I've got a lot of UK in the house. And also I'm going to get back to everyone's comments on the content. So if you see any smokes, I'm just saging. This is actually going to be a video about 2 weeks ago. There's a Minnesota hockey player that was playing in Sheffield, which is South Yorkshire? I should know this is terrible. South Yorkshire. This is really interesting. The stage is going crazy right now. Really crazy. Like, if I can just show you. It's kind of weird. I wonder if it's related to the dark energy around this. Okay, so a Minnesota ice hockey player. I need to remember. I wanted to make the joke, but I need to remember the name of the hockey team. Anyway, they were playing against, I think, Sheffield Settlers or something like that. In Sheffield, in England, in the UK, or Nottingham in England. And it was the Sheffield Settlers. Now, I'm going to insert a video clip. There's more gory clips out there, but I didn't feel that was appropriate. So I took something from the Inside Edition and have a look at it. Mainly have a look at the actual occurrence of so Adam's actually wearing white, and the opponent, which I believe is Matt Petgrave, is wearing the red or the orange. And pay attention to I'm just going to say it, high kick. Okay, so watch the clip and I'll meet you back here.
Now a terrible tragedy at a hockey game. A 29-year-old man is dead after he was slashed in the neck by another player's skate. It's being called a freak accident, but that death may have been prevented by one simple, inexpensive piece of gear, a neck guard. Les Trent has details, and we warn, they're graphic.
It looks like a routine hockey collision on the ice, but look again. You can see the skate of the player in red fly up and hit the other player in the neck.
We knew it was not good.
Carrie Johnson was home in Minnesota watching a live stream of her nephew, former NHL player Adam Johnson, taking part in a professional game in England. That's when she saw, to her horror, her stricken nephew, blood streaming, being taken off the ice. He was pronounced dead at the hospital.
In all of my 50-some years of playing and watching hockey, I have never, ever seen something like that. This is just my opinion. I do believe the kick was deliberate.
Police are investigating the tragedy, calling it standard practice with all unexpected and sudden deaths. How sharp can hockey blades get? Sports store manager Michael Osinga showed me.
All these scars on my hand are from...
So you can actually Google or go on YouTube and put Adam Johnson, ice hockey player, and get a bit more. But basically, imagine a hockey skate coming at your neck. He was just bleeding, like it was, and then they picked him up and skated him away, and he died. He died from this high kick. It was brought to my attention a few days ago, about 4 days ago, and I was like, I'm going to read on this. I actually didn't realise that it was actually in the UK. I thought it was in Canada somewhere, because, you know, in Canada, they've got like, I can't remember the cities and stuff, but they've got like towns and places that have either towns or cities that are also in England. And so I just thought it was basically, I knew there were an American team playing, and I just thought it was actually in Canada. And then it was brought to my attention. So basically, This is my notes of what I've got on it, so I give you a bit more. Police in England are looking into the death of the American ice hockey player Adam Johnson, whose neck was cut by skate during a game. And this was on Tuesday. I'm recording this Wednesday the 15th of November, and I think this was on Monday or Tuesday the 13th or 14th. There might be developments around there, but Adam Johnson's 29 and was playing for the Nottingham Panthers. So I think in Nottingham Panthers against Sheffield Steelers on October the 28th, when he was struck by opponent's skate blade in the Elite Ice Hockey League game at Sheffield's home arena. So some people are saying, now with ice hockey, it's one of those sports that's dangerous. And so there's sort of this thing around, you know what you're getting yourself into, all the risks, okay? I don't want to trigger anyone. It must be very devastating. If I was Adam Johnson's side, I would be extremely peed off. I'd be obviously grieving, and he's got a fiance. And I can't really bear to think, like, you would not think this could happen, and I didn't think it would be even normal to raise your leg during ice hockey. I mean, even that high, maybe you raise it a little bit to, I don't know, move over something and skate, but like go that high. And so it's not something that you would expect. Now with this, you know, some people might think it was totally innocent, so it's going to be interesting what they come up with. What did you get when you saw that? I felt like it was a bit of a high kick. Now, if you don't agree with me, I love, like, everyone on this channel that comments, because it's kind of like we get perspective from each other. But there was an intent there, and I don't think the intent was to you know, there's this new word going around about unalive, to kill. Why do I have to use, okay, unalive, just to protect? This is disclaimer, this is for entertainment purposes only. Please use your own discernment and fact finding. So unalive him, but there was an intent there to, it seems like the opponent might not have liked him, or maybe they had a scuffle before, or, you know, whatever it is, and it was kind of like, I'm just going to get him out the way, or not out the way as unalive him, but like, I can't stand this guy, he just pees me off, so I'm going to just, you know, whatever, but not in intent. But I just like, I really, like the skate at the back of the head, that was a high kick. That is intentional. That was intentional. I don't think the outcome was intentional, but I think there was negligence there, and I think there was kind of, sod it, I'm just going to do it, I can't stand him. Or we had a bickering, more than a bickering, you know, bickering probably is more innocent. I think they had, you know, something, they couldn't stand each other, they had something against each other or something, and, you know, there was still that kind of held grudge or resentment. And so I believe that that was intentional. I'm sorry to say, I believe it was intentional. I can only think of the pain of the person, even if it was intentional, which is Petgrave, is it? Petgrave, Matt Petgrave? Matt Petgrave. But I think there was in law, there's culpable negligence, and that is where the defendant is caused or put up, created risk to the other person or whatever it is consciously, and took a chance that could cause bodily harm, or obviously in the most extent is death. And it means that there's substantial causal factor in causing death. The defendant then, which would be, because you're going to defend that you didn't mean to do it, would be criminally liable for the events that produce the results. And culpable negligence is seen as intentional in terms of the conduct. And the defendant may not have intended to be harmful, but that an ordinary and reasonably prudent person would recognize that involving themselves in such an act towards someone could strongly have a probability of injury to that person in a severe way, or even obviously great bodily harm, which means can go to the extent of death or paralyzation or whatever. And I think there is something around that. I think there was a carelessness and then a negligence, culpable negligence. Now, I don't know if that falls under something, but there is something in the law in terms of that, and I don't know what the criminal law will be. There might be even a question of, manslaughter there. I mean, I think they need to look at the history. But it was on the 28th of October. Interesting again was the 28th of October, the lunar eclipse. Again, if you saw my Matt Perry video, I said about energies that work against you, heightened emotions, heightened aggression, full round, and again, wiping someone out. It's a closure. And if it resulted in him dying, I think it would have been the same day. So yeah, going back to that lunar eclipse, very interesting. Now, there was something I wanted to say, that I've done a channeling on Natalie Wood, and there's part 2 just after this video, so do check that out. I did that yesterday. I did them both after each other. And today I'm doing this, and I'll be processing it and putting it as a premiere straight away. So it'll be a few hours later. But I'd be interested to hear from you that when it's in advance, is that helpful? Like if it's premiered in like 10 hours, is that helpful? If it's not, check on your subscriptions. If you're a subscriber, always just click on me, because I'm probably one of your subscriptions that doesn't have the most followers, so I might not be at the top of the list. But if you click on your subscriptions, it'll show you everything that's listed as a premiere. And if you go to my channel and videos, sometimes it'll show you premiere. For example, yesterday I had Libra, Capricorn, Aquarius, and I had Natalie Wood's part 1, and it would have shown you Capricorn, Aquarius, and a video that's already been yesterday's content, a couple of videos, and it'll show you Libra, and then it'll show you Natalie Wood. So it kind of disperses them out. But when you go and click on the subscription, where you've got your subscriptions, put your notifications on, and at the bottom of the YouTube, for example, on the phone, it will say subscriptions. You click on that, you see everyone's. You click on me, you'll see everything that's listed, and you can put save to watch later for whenever it's suitable for you. But let's get back to Adam Johnson. Yes, so the lunar eclipse totally brought his full cycle of life. There's an energy there around that as well. Why am I getting told to look at the date of the Oh, I'm getting told to look at Natalie Wood's dates of the moon. That's interesting. It's a bit late now. But I hope you enjoy the part 2 of Natalie Wood. Let's get into this. Let's see if Matt Petgrave did intentionally do a high kick first, okay? Let's look at that. Although I've just said what I think. Let me know what your thoughts are as soon as you see it. Some of you might be ice hockey players, you might be able to say. I am getting there was a confrontation between them earlier that day, maybe just, you know, like in the locker room or something. I think it was sprouted in a little bit of jealousy or envy. One of them being a bit more insecure. The other one was a bit more, and it's Adam Johnson who I'm seeing is a bit more quieter and not as in the forefront. And I think there was insecurity or something of the defendant or the other opponent. Remember, this is disclaimer for entertainment purposes only, please. I don't think there was an intent to unalive anyone, and my thoughts are with the family of loss and grieving, but also if someone didn't have the intent to unalive someone and was careless, I'm not saying that they shouldn't be brought to justice, but in that there's a big burden that they obviously carry of realizing what on earth they've just done, which, you know, they're not young children here, they should know. So let me just get my question clear, but that's what I'm channeling there in terms of energy. Adam Johnson's a bit more, he's quieter and he's more like, he's confident in himself, but because he's quiet, it might not come across that way, but you can sense his confidence, like, basically. Where the other person was, I'm getting also a strong player, by the way, a strong player, but a bit more aggressive in general in his personality. You know, what I mean by that, if you take an earth sign and a fire sign, there's different, you know, sort of energies around them and the way they present themselves. That's just giving you an example. And I think there was something about confidence and insecurity deep down, or a feeling of being threatened, especially if you feel the other person is also a strong player, but there was something there. And it was kind of like, I'll get him now. Not with that intent, but you know what I mean? Like, oh, I dropped my sage. Okay. Yeah, I think, so here I get the Page of Cups. This is the lack of emotional maturity from Matt, okay. It was definitely intentional. And it was intentional to sort of harm him, maybe to stop him from playing for the rest of the game. So it wasn't just like I'm just going to give him a push on the ice or something. No, there was a bit more behind it. There was an intent to hurt him, so maybe to stop him from playing the rest of the game. But okay, there is a question. I do have a question on look. It'd be interesting to know if this guy's got kind of like a criminal background or something. Okay, so there is conflicting messages here because I've asked for certain cards and there is definitely an intent to hurt him, the intent to actually unalive him. I don't believe is the case. But there's cards here stating so. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that at that. I don't think it is the case. There is definitely an intent to hurt Adam Johnson. There was definitely that intent. Let me just change the question a little bit. Okay, so I get here, I get their energies, which I think Matt is presented as a fire energy. I get Adam like I mentioned, he's a bit more of a laid back, like maybe a water sign in his charts, or earth, but I think he's a bit more of a, I don't know if his fiance was present there. I don't know if they live in the UK or what is happening there, but I think he was, there was his, you know, he was hanging out, you know, there was something about his fiance's energy here, right? So I don't know if she was with him at the time prior to the game, basically in that day. There was definitely a choice around there was choices that day, and there was inner strength needed. So I do think that one of them was feeling a bit more insecure from the other's energy. And one of them is a bit more like, maybe one of them sees, and you can guess from what I've already said, Matt basically sees himself as, I don't know if he's the strongest player on that team, but I think he normally gets the attention. He's more creative, he's not more creative, he's more like adventurous, passionate, he has the heat in him, whereas Adam is a bit more, knows his game well, but he'll take it, he's not going to be robustly, aggressively getting in there like, oh, hey, blah, 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 running on the pitch and stuff. He does his thing and he knows his arts. I think they're both very strong players. There was vulnerability. This is the insecurities that I see. And then this is the game, okay? This is the game beginning, and there was priorities that needed to be really looked at, really assessed in terms of what they were thinking. There was also choice that could have been made. There was clearly a choice that was taken, which was the high kick, and it was done. And I also am getting that it was thought of. It was thought of. It wasn't a sporadic thing on the ice, thought of, or in that moment. It wasn't something not thought of. It was something that either at the beginning of the game or prior to the game, thought of, that I'm going to do. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do a high kick, or I'm going to do something to get him out the way, not unalive him, but maybe get him off the pit, off the ice hockey, off the ice for the rest of the game. Or I'm just going to get him back for earlier, or an element of jealousy or something like that. And there was something of like time was on his mind in terms of doing this at the right moment in time, and there was something about managing that, and also priorities in terms of a choice, should I do it? And then the doing it and realizing the outcome, doing it, realizing I should have just let go of whatever had happened earlier that day, or whatever rife is between me and him, because ultimately this is what's happened, the grief, the loss, not, you know, obviously for everyone, but also the heartbreak of what I need to face now. And by that, I don't mean that there should be sympathy, but obviously there is heartbreak and there is grief there, and there's something heavy on the heart, basically. Needing to be resilient, feeling very, during the past 2 weeks, feeling needing to be resilient, but also coming to the edge of I don't want to say sensitive, but there's a word that I want. Yeah, basically realizing what you've done. And there was no need for this sort of hidden tactic of what you're going to do, you know. The betrayal, the death that's happened. this was again like that, the Page of Cups, the immaturity of emotions not being handled in the right way. So, you know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to look into his energy. I don't know if he's still under investigation. There might be an update. We'll have to see. I'm going to look into his energy right now. 15th of November, okay? 15th of November. Matt Petgrave's energy, please. The Page of Pentacles. The death and the rebirth is on his mind. Page of Pentacles needing to present his version of the sort of story, but like it's not out in the media or anything, it's behind the scenes. There we go, feeling like I'm needing to be resilient. I need to stand up for what I need to be the defendant basically of it all, okay? I need to temper my emotions, okay? I do think he's got top fire in his charts. I need to temper my emotions. I need to try and be grounded at this moment in time. And also prayer, I think, is what he's trying to refer to. I'm going to show me Matt's energy, please, Spirit. Matt's energy, please, Spirit. We've got the Knight of Cups, which I put as Adam, okay? So it is on his mind, obviously. The Four of Wands is actually around stability, his stability at this moment in time, his home, his foundation. This is Matt, how it's maybe, how he's maybe feeling it might be crumbling. The Page of Wands is probably him feeling more vulnerable than, you know, in the last read I put him as the Knight of Wands, and here he's taken a step back. And this is the card of trying to have that little bit of faith and hope. This is also where he's coming forward with his side of the story and making sure he puts it all together, sort of really puts his defendant claim or whatever, if he's getting investigated, really puts it in a grounded, understood manner, and maybe coming up with ideas that can help him defend the situation of the death, okay? And needing to have that that sense of hope at this moment in time. Anything else, please, Spirit? So that he can continue to try to move forward with this, hoping that the wheel turns in his favour, and there's teamwork here. So it's likely, I think, if he's going to get investigated, he might feel he needs a lawyer or someone to be on his team. You know, he needs people on his team. Any more cards, please, Spirit? Eight of Wands. In order to have a breakthrough, in order to try and reach some sort of success in his defense, basically, the Knight of Wands, for him to return back to, as opposed to being, he was this and then he's gone to this, because, you know, he's been trying to be resilient. Do you know when you're in a vulnerable state, you're not as confident, and so you go back to being a bit more of a junior, let's say, and then so he can restore really him at his age or where he was, as opposed to how he's feeling right now. feeling like he also needs to rush in. There needs to be communication from maybe his team or lawyers. He needs to rush. He knows he needs to make sure that he handles this swiftly, but he needs to be careful. He needs, because I think he's got, you know, he's quite fiery, and I think he needs to be careful that he needs to temper his patience, okay, and doesn't just rush in hastily, okay. He doesn't rush in hasty where he's panicking or just like, I'm just going to answer this, la la la. He needs to temper that. That's the risk here. He needs to temper what he says, and make sure he has the inner strength, okay, and not get overwhelmed with everything that's going on around him where he can't see clearly. The Eight of Cups here. Now, the Eight of Cups, I just want to see something, because I am not feeling it in the sense of the Eight of Cups. I'm feeling it in a sense of walking away but regretting a choice that he made, which was actually to do that high kick. I can see it clearly, it was a choice, but feeling really stuck in his current reality of what he's going through, and fears that are probably blocking obviously a lot of stuff actually, and really wanting to escape and avoid stuff like escapism right now. That's what I'm feeling with that Eight of Cups, as opposed to like walking away for change, walking away for just letting go, releasing. I'm feeling it in the other sense. So I think we'll leave it there, okay. Terrible accident, tragic accident. My thoughts are with everyone during this time, especially Adam Johnson's family. And yeah, if you enjoyed this, please do let me know, and I'll see you in our next reading. Take care and bye for now.